Hello, my name is Leah Kiernan, and I'm with the For Safety and Seats for Safety program at the Injury Prevention Center. This video is going to teach you how to use the digital car seat check form when you're at a car seat check. The first thing that you need to do is put in your username and password. So if you don't already have an account, you'll need to make one, and we'll put a link in the comment section here to link to our video that teaches you how to make an account if you're having trouble figuring it out yourself. So we'll do our username and password and log in. Okay. So one thing to note is that they did update this check form in October. So if you're doing this from your phone, you'll need to update the app. And just note, if you had printed paper copies previously, you'll just need to print new copies because they do ask for slightly different information. If you do have any issues with that, right when you log in, it gives you the helpline. So that's info@carseatcheckform.org. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we're on our home screen. We go to create check form. And before I start this, I just want to point out, so this is just one way that you can take down the information. So you can either, while you're at a car seat check, you can have a tablet or your phone and have the app open and be filling this out right with the caregiver, or you can print out paper copies of this and fill out the paper copy with the caregiver and then go back later into the computer and put in all the information into the computer. So those are both good options. So the first thing that we do is we put in the caregiver information. So wherever city that the caregiver is from, as well as their state. So for now, I'm going to check off training, and this is a great option too for you if you just want to kind of mess around with the form and take a look at all the questions and that sort of thing. If you select training, then it won't ask you or it won't keep this data. So you can type whatever you want, and then when you're done, it will be deleted. So it won't be counted towards anything. And then we'll put in our zip code. What model year is this vehicle? So they added to this question, is the model year older than 2011? If you say yes, it is older, you just have to manually type in the year, make, and model. If it's newer, then you have this drop-down menu. So we'll say it's a Ford Focus, and the year is 2014. It does have vehicle trim, so if you know that, you can add that. I would say the more information you can add, the better. They also have a link here, so if you are connected to the internet, you can click this link and see any safety recalls with that particular vehicle if you have the VIN number. Then what CPS agency is hosting the seat check? So just whatever is applicable to you. So if you're Providence Police, you would select that. We are Safe Kids Rhode Island. So just start typing and then make sure you select your agency. Then we have the liability statement. So we have our agency, English or Spanish. There is just a generic form. So if you haven't created your own, they'll have the generic form. If you do want to create your own, again, just reach out to that help email that I pointed out earlier. And then we have the signature. So if you're doing this from your phone, you'll just have them type it in or sign it right there. If you are doing it on paper, make sure they sign the paper form and you can just check that off. They did add an option too for a virtual seat check. So if you're doing this through FaceTime or Zoom or something like that, you would check the virtual seat check. Then we have the date and the event/inspection. So this is if you're having an event, you could type in the event. So, Warwick Mall event. If you are doing these at your station, you can type in Cranston Police, and this is really just for you so that you know you can kind of lump these all together. So we do our events at the Injury Prevention Center, or I'm sorry, we do our seat checks at the Injury Prevention Center. So that's what we type out. Then we have a spot for additional techs attending to this caregiver. So just like our agency, we're going to start typing in the name of the additional tech that's helping us out. And this will automatically link them to your form. And then just note that you will only have that drop-down option and it will only count the name if they already have an account on this website. So make sure they have an account. If they don't, it will not get linked to them. So show them our video on how to make an account. And then what state is the seat check taking place in? So it could be different than where the caregiver lives. Again, we'll say training, but select whichever state is applicable. And then how did the caregiver hear about the seat check? This is a new question. So if you didn't find out, then that's fine. Just say NA. But it's kind of nice to know if they saw, if you post on social media or a friend referred them. And then is the seat check for recertification? So if you do say yes, this is really just for your own record. And again, this will get linked to your account. So you'll be able to go back and look at all of these. Then it just will ask you, is it a mock seat check? I do want to point out that you don't need to necessarily fill out a form for a mock seat check, but they do have that option. So you can do that. If you say no, then that's it. So then we'll save this form. So again, this is all the caregiver information and their vehicle information. And now you've been assigned a number to this form. So especially if you've done this on a paper form, we like to write down the number on the paper form, and that way you know that they're linked. So then we'll scroll to the bottom of this, just kind of review that and make sure everything looks good. And now we'll have the option to add child. So this is where you'll add if there are 5 kids or just 1 kid. You do it 1 child at a time. So now we have the child's information. So child's age and years. If you do say under 1, now they want to know how many months the child is. So just keep that in mind. All the other ages, it's just by year. So then we have the child location in the vehicle. So this could be different from the seat location, but we'll say the child is located in the middle of the 2nd row. There is 1 for no child present. So we've had a lot fewer kids at our car seat checks now that people are trying to be extra cautious of exposing them. So you could say no child present if they're not there, 4th row if that's the case. The height. So you'll want to, these are both the height and weight are mandatory now. So we'll say the height is 36 inches and the weight is 26 pounds. This little question mark here just helps you if you're trying to do fast math with kilograms. And then the height here, if they say their child is 3'11", you don't have to pull out your calculator. All right, and then how were the height and weight collected? So was it just the caregiver telling us that, oh, I think they're about 36 inches, or did you actually measure them at the seat check? And then how was the child secured? So were they in their car seat harness? Was there no child present? Were they just kind of floating around the car unrestrained, etc.? So pick whichever applies in your situation. On the next page, we have the car seat location. So generally this is pretty repetitive, but you could have a circumstance where the child comes in and the seat is uninstalled and the child's not in the seat or something like that. If the child was in the seat, it'll be the same location that you already put. And then what is the car seat restraint type? So select whatever is applicable. Rear facing only with base, rear facing convertible, forward facing, etc. And then how is the car seat installed? So you can select all that apply. Say they use a lower anchor and also the lap and shoulder belt, which we would not recommend, but that's how the seat came in. And then how is the car seat harness? So if you say it was correct, then that's it. You don't have to go on any further. If you say it was not correct, then it gives you a lot of different options. Again, you'll select all that apply. So maybe it was too loose. It was not the right height. Anything that applies, you'll check off. And then was that recline angle correct? So with our rear facing seats, did they have that properly reclined? And what about the lower anchors? So we're going to say no, they were incorrect. And again, just choose whatever is applicable. If it's more than one, select more than one. So they used it with a seatbelt, that was incorrect. And it's in the middle seating position, so there's a good chance it was borrowing anchors. I like to be really specific, so that isn't specifically given here, so I'll type it in myself. You could also say incorrect use of vehicle anchors. Again, the more information you give, the better. And this is really going to help you in the long run. So if you have to look back, you might not remember all these details, but if you type it out, you'll remember, or you can at least remind yourself. Was the seatbelt correct? Same thing. If you say yes, it won't give you any other options. If you say no, you'll have to explain why. So it was incorrect because it was used the lower anchor. Was the tether correct? We say NA because they shouldn't be using the tether with a rear-facing convertible. Okay, and then we have all the different features that potentially could be on a car seat. So was the handle position correct? NA again, because that doesn't apply to this convertible. Load leg, anti-rebound bar, non-approved products. So if we say no, it's going to remind us later on that we have to explain what happened. So say they had a mirror to see their rear-facing child. Hopefully you're recommending that they remove that, and you'll be prompted to explain that later on in this form. Was the car seat the correct direction per manufacturer's instructions? Yes or no? Was the car seat secured per manufacturer's instructions? So we'll say no because they used the lower anchors and the seat belt. Was the car seat correct for the child's age, height, and weight per manufacturer's instructions? So if you took a look at the labels, you wanted to make sure that they were in the correct seat for their age, height, and weight. And then was the car seat correct per state's law? So this can come in conflict with was it secured or was it correct per manufacturer's instructions? So the manufacturer might say it's okay for your 1-year-old who's 22 pounds to be forward facing, but the law says that's not okay. So that's when you would select no, and it might be different than the manufacturer's instructions. And again, a nice little resource they have here if you do have internet is the list of the state laws. So we know in Rhode Island that kids have to be rear facing until 2 or 30 pounds. But if you're in another state, then you can just take a look at that and it'll tell you the different laws. So we'll go to the next page. And then this is what you found with the car seat on arrival. So make sure you don't get confused. Some people do get confused on arrival and on departure. So when the car seat came in, were the labels missing? If you say yes or no, that's fine. These are all mandatory questions. So what was the car seat manufacturer? You want to get this all when you're first looking at the seat. If you aren't sure, if a label is missing, you'll type in U. Otherwise, put in, again, as much information as you're able to get. Manufacture date, we'll say May 2018. Expiration date, so if it says it right on the seat, you'll want to put that in. Is the car seat expired? Yes or no? Is it recalled? Another great resource they have here to NHTSA, as long as you have internet, is you can see the most updated recall link. So you can either get this Safer app on your phone and you can look up the recalls that way, or they do have this link right here for you as well. Is a history known? So I usually ask if they got the seat new when they first got it. If they didn't get it new, if they got it from someone, then they don't know the history. They don't know if it was in a crash or how it was maintained. But if they got it new or as a gift, then they do know the history. Was it involved in a crash? Yes, no, or unknown. So if they didn't know the history, they don't know if it was in a crash. But hopefully they know. Is it registered? Again, if they sent in the registration card, or you can even do it with them right while they're with you. You can say yes, no, or unknown, and then we'll move on to the next page. So this is on departure. Where is the child and the car seat located in the vehicle? So it might be different than how it came in. So we'll say they moved them to the outboard seating position. What is the restraint type? So this may or may not be the same or different as when it came in. So we'll say we kept them in that rear facing convertible because we know it's so much safer. So that's what we recommended and the parent listened to us. And then how is the child secured? If the child's there, it should be with a harness, but the child may not be present or whatever. Just check off whatever applies. And then how is the car seat installed? Again, check off whatever is applicable. So we talked to them about not using the lower anchors and the seat belt. So now we can just check off lower anchors. Is this the same car seat as on arrival? So this question is important if you're giving out seats or if the caregiver came to you and they brought a new seat that they want you to install. So generally, it probably will be the same seat. If you do say no, it wants to know about who provided the seat and then all the updated manufacturer information, so of the new seat. But for most of you, you'll probably say yes, it's the same seat. And then was it registered for recalls, either by you or by the caregiver? Is the car seat compatible with the vehicle? I kind of like this. They changed some of the answers to allow you to give more detail. So you can say yes without difficulty, which hopefully it was, or you can say yes with difficulty. And then they want to know what made it difficult. So was the car too small? Were the lower anchors hard to access, etc.? And you'll just check off whatever works for you, whatever problems you had. Or you even have the option, no, a different car seat is needed. So hopefully that's not the case, but in some circumstances that might come up. And then all corrections made prior to departure. So hopefully, all of your recommendations were accepted by the caregiver. If not, and even if they are accepted, you absolutely want to document it. And this is for your benefit. So this could even be, you recommended they remove mirror and they did not. So you just want to put down everything that you recommended. So, here it says, because of what we checked off previously, don't forget to document why the car seat wasn't installed per manufacturer's instructions. So if you want to be extremely clear, you can say it arrived using both lower anchors and seat belt. Left using only lower anchors per recommendation. So just document every single thing, all of your recommendations, whether the caregiver listened or didn't listen, and that's going to help you in the long run. And then they also added this, which is great. So technician discussed anything that you discussed. So say the parents weren't wearing seatbelts and you had a little chat with them about that, heat stroke, what the next steps are for the car seat, best practice versus state law. Anything that you gave them information on or discussed with them, you can check off here. And it's kind of helpful if you're doing this with a caregiver, that will prompt you to discuss some of those items. Okay, and then we have the caregiver sign off. So this is great if you have the caregiver with you. If not, you'll have to follow the prompts here. So I harness the child doll in a car seat. If the caregiver was or if the child was in the seat when they left, then the caregiver should be harnessing them in instead of you. I installed my car seat today. So again, remembering that we're not just an installation service, we're an education service. So even if the parent didn't install the whole seat by themselves, they participated and have a really good understanding. So they should be saying yes. And then caregiver initials. So this will vary depending on whether the caregiver is with you while you're doing this or not. So if you're using your phone or your tablet, then they can actually put their initials. If it's virtual, you're going to type in VR for them. And if they filled it out on the paper form, just type in paper. Was there a donation? If there is, it'll ask what the amount is. Were there any education materials given? So did you have any pamphlets or flyers or anything? Mark off if you did that. And then final inspection sign off. So that's kind of like, if you were doing this for a sign off for your renewal, then you could say who the instructor was who signed off for you. And then agency documentation box, that's more for you. It's not necessarily about the specific seat. So that could be just if you want to remind yourself, seat was for recertification. Any little reminders you want to give your agency or yourself about this check. So then you can either save this as a draft if you wanted to go back and make sure things were correct, or if you've already done that and you're ready to submit, you'll just hit submit. So now that child has been saved and has been submitted. At that point, you can scroll to the bottom of this page again. And if there are more kids, that's where you'll say add child. Also, if you chose to save draft and you go off and do some other things and come back, then you'll see next to child 1 that it will say edit. You'll have to go in there and make sure that you do submit because it is not submitted into the system until you hit submit. Then a couple other things I wanted to show you. So if your agency does want their own custom PDF form of this digital check form, so if you want to add your logos and your own liability statement, then you'll just go to request custom PDF. If you do end up having any questions about that, again, contact this info@carseatcheckform.org. They should be able to help you. And then when you want to see the list of everything you've done, you'll go to your homepage and you can see all of the forms that you've done. So again, they're all labeled with these numbers. So if you have a question and you want to go back to the paper form and compare, then you have all these numbers to refer to, all the dates and everything. And you can sort that by event date too. All right, so that's everything on how to fill out this check form. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to us. And again, check out that link that we'll put in the comments if you aren't sure about how to make your own account, and that video will go over how to make your own account. All right, thank you so much and have a nice day.